Hi! Today, I will showcase you how to generate a fake MSI installer using MacroPack and ShellcodePack. For this demo, I will be using a Mythic payload using the Merlin agent, and I will generate a shellcode. I will then use this raw shellcode to build an obfuscated DLL using ShellcodePack, and finally, I will go back to MacroPack to generate a MSI installer that will contain and run this DLL. I have Mythic set up with the Merlin agent and HTTP profile both installed, and have already generated a Windows targeting x64 shellcode. We could technically generate an exe or DLL here, but as I have found, they tend to get detected very easily by antiviruses, which is why we will rely on ShellcodePack for that part. With our shellcode now ready, let's move over to ShellcodePack to generate a DLL from it. Let's start off with making sure that we select the same architecture as the one we set on our Merlin payload. I will provide our raw shellcode as an input file and will specify that we want to output a DLL. Let's now move to the most important screen, the options screen. Already by default, many obfuscation options are selected. Without these, it is very likely that our payload will be detected right away. We can add or remove some options depending on the system we are targeting. I will set the shellcode launch method to virtual protect etwp create etw-thread, and I will also set the antivirus emulation bypass method to what is mail slot. According to my test, these two work pretty well at avoiding Kaspersky's detection, which I will demonstrate later on. Finally, I will ensure that no console stays open during the payload execution and set a 60 seconds delay on my payload, as many detection methods rely on detecting multiple events within a short time frame. One very important thing. Because my MSI installer will rely on run-dll-32 to execute the payload, I need to set my shellcode to be executed not from DLL main, but from an exported function. Otherwise, the payload will close itself immediately after startup. I will also need to make sure that the exported function name is sc_main, as it is what our MSI installer will be relying on. I will now generate my payload. Because of how big the Merlin payload is, this can easily take a minute or two. Now that we have our payload, let's embed it in a MSI installer. With MacroPack open, I will browse the list of scenarios and select drop and execute a file contained in a MSI installer. This scenario accepts any kind of input file format such as exe, hta, bat, scr, inf, and more, but here I have a DLL, so I will provide that. Moving on to the second screen, I get to customize the MSI installer a bit. I can choose the program name and various metadata, I can force a legitimate error message to display, and more. Here, I will fill the program name and author, disable the error message, and throw in a legitimate putty exe file I have lying around as a decoy. So our payload will keep running even if the installer closes, and will run putty so as to pretend it did something that isn't malicious. Now I can generate my final payload, my MSI installer, and send it to my target machine. My target machine here is a Windows 11 system with Kaspersky running. I will now run my payload. As expected, putty is now open and the installation is finished. Nothing is shown on the Mythic side yet, but that is because I set the payload to have a 1 minute delay. Fast forward 1 minute, and a callback now popped up in Mythic, this without raising any alert on our target system. I now have access to my target machine and can run any command my Mythic agent will allow. Thank you for watching this short demo. You can check the description for information about Mythic and Merlin. You can also visit BallisKit.com if you are considering obtaining ShellcodePack or MacroPack, and you can follow our Twitter and LinkedIn for news and updates about what we do.